I recently got this 386DX40. Today we're going to repair its VADA battery, upgrade it, and then try out some games. Let's get started. Well, I actually received this computer complete in the original box, so let's go ahead and open it up. As you can see on the top, we get some packaging material, and moving that away reveals a bunch of software. It appears as though we have a complete idiot's guide to Windows 3.1, Microsoft Works Getting Started Guide, Microsoft Works Users Guide, and some mystery envelope, which upon further inspection appears to have a 5¼ floppy disk inside for the video card drivers. We also get the user's manual for a VGA monitor, the manual for the video card, the certificate of authenticity for Windows 3.1, and then just a bunch of random registration papers. Let's go ahead and take out all the foam and reveal the computer which is inside the box. And yeah, a pretty basic looking 386DX40 PC. Let's go ahead and open it up and see what's inside. It appears we have a motherboard made by MSI, specifically the model MS3131. We also get a UMC chipset, which means this is a pretty late 386 motherboard. We also get 128 kilobytes of cache, as well as an AMD 386DX40. I'll go ahead and pull out the video card, as well as the multi-IO controller card. Next, I'll go ahead and disconnect the two AT power connectors on the motherboard. And finally, I'll go ahead and unscrew the 3.5-inch floppy drive and pull it out. And here we are. It appears we have 32 megabytes of RAM installed. Wow! Anyway, now let's go ahead and take out the motherboard. Would you look at that? One of those pesky VADA batteries. It has done a fair bit of damage to this board, but nothing too irreparable. Around this area is where all the damage is done. So now let's get into the repair and fix this motherboard once and for all. The first thing to do is actually desolder the battery itself, so I'll go ahead and use my soldering iron to heat up one of the legs and then pry out one side of the battery. I'll repeat this process with the other one, and there you go, battery removed. Next, I'll go ahead and add some fresh solder to each of the legs of the keyboard connector. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and use my desoldering tool to get rid of the solder on the legs. I'll also add some solder to these grounding pins and do the same thing. With that taken care of, we can go ahead and pull out the keyboard connector now and reveal more of the damage. Now I'll go ahead and remove the AT keyboard connector by following this same procedure. And once that's done, yet again we get to pull it out. Look at that. Amazing. It's now time to neutralize the corrosion, so I'm gonna do this using some white vinegar and just put it on all around the damaged area. After also desoldering the keyboard pinout header, I now followed it up with some isopropyl alcohol to neutralize the reaction and be left with the damage. And now for the most nerve-wracking part of the whole repair, scraping away all the damaged traces back to bare copper. This is done so I can resolder over the top of them and make sure there is a proper connection. Now that we're left with the bare copper traces, we can go ahead and solder over the top to repair them. I'm just going to use some flux here and go over all the exposed traces with some. This will help the solder stick properly and ensure a good long-lasting bond. It's kind of fun to pipe this stuff on the connections. More fun than it looks. Anyway, once that's done, I'll go ahead and get my soldering iron out, put some solder on the freshly tinned tip, and go ahead and just put it all on those exposed traces. As you can see, the flux helps greatly in making sure the solder sticks properly. And yeah, this is how you go about repairing the traces. It's not the prettiest way. Well, it's better than wires, but yeah, it's definitely gonna work and ensure the motherboard lasts a long time. That's looking a whole lot better now. Nice. I'll go ahead and reinstall the keyboard connector, which goes in the freshly cleaned holes pretty easy. Next, I'll go ahead and install the power connector, and again, it installs very nicely. And now just to solder them back in, which was a breeze. I had to solder in a couple of patch wires here just to make the board work, but here we are, soldering the keyboard connector back in, the last step. And there we go, a successfully repaired 386DX40 motherboard. Doesn't that look amazing? And it's great to know that there's going to be no more damage done to this motherboard. Let's go ahead and put it back in the case, and yeah, it goes in there pretty easy. I'll reinstall the two AT power connectors, as well as the Trident VGA video card and the multi-IO controller card. I'll next install this Sound Blaster 16 card with a real OPL3 chip. This is probably one of the coolest Sound Blaster 16s I own, as well as the oldest. It's not a Vibra either, which is surprisingly rare to see. This computer didn't come with a hard drive, so I'll install one of these compact flash to IDE adapters. Next, I'll go ahead and plug in the floppy drive again. And it really wouldn't be a complete 386 computer without a 5¼ inch floppy drive. I have no idea why this didn't come with one from the factory, but here we go. Let's install one now. Wow, look at that. Now this machine is complete. With that taken care of, it's now time for the big moment. Does it work? And in this case, yes, it works perfectly, detecting the full 32 megabytes of 32-pin memory also. At this point, we're basically done, so let's go ahead and try out some games. Wow, I've always loved the sound of stunts, especially with a nice Sound Blaster 16. Well, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.